Bob Lemin for LCTV. I'm here on East King Street in downtown Lancaster, about to enter the historic Demuth Museum. I'm here with Executive Director Abby Baer. We're about to preview an exciting art show from Lancaster's David Brumbach.
Welcome, Bob.
Happy Friday, Abby.
Happy Friday.
Bob Lemin for LCTV. Happy to be in downtown Lancaster at the site of the Demuth Museum. Today I'm here with Executive Director Abby Baer. Abby's going to give us an introduction to the museum, a little bit about the history of the Demuth family in Lancaster.
So welcome to the Demuth Museum. It is here at 120 East King Street in downtown Lancaster. It's the historic home and studio of modernist painter Charles Demuth. He was born in 1883 and died here in this home in 1935. We have a collection of over 55 original works by Charles Demuth here that we rotate on display. We also do special exhibits, and that's why we're here today to look at Brumbach's Lancaster.
Here in the first floor gallery at the Demuth Museum on East King Street in downtown Lancaster, with Abby Baer, and we're about to preview an exciting art show from one of Lancaster's favorite sons, David Brumbach. Abby, how did the idea for the Brumbach show come about?
Well, 2020 marks the 50th anniversary of David's first art exhibit here in Lancaster, and so we are celebrating that with 50 original pieces from him.
And tell us a little bit about Brumbach the Man and the artist. I know he was born in Lidditz, graduated from Warwick High School, went to historic Rhode Island School of Design, and then launched his artistic career with that 1970 debut show.
Yes, after completing RISD, he came back to Lancaster and set up a studio and worked here until his death in 1992. And his life parallels a lot of David Brumbach's plot points and storylines.
For example, Demuth was born on North Lime Street.
Yep.
Both their fathers died at early ages. They were encouraged in art by their supportive mothers. And interestingly, both gentlemen developed diabetes at a relatively early age.
Yes, yes. And that eventually, impacted not only their careers, but their lifespans as well.
And influenced the art and where they could go and what they could do.
Yes.
But they, as you'll see, they still managed to get a lot of work down on paper and live life to the fullest.
Right. Yep.
So at the beginning of the art show, we're going to start with some early art from the 70s. And take it away.
Yeah. So these pieces are from 1972, 73, and 70. And you can see he was interested in abstracts. Some people think that he kind of got into abstracts and collage work later, but he was always kind of exploring those areas.
This was one of the first Brumbach pieces I encountered in the early 70s. I was lucky enough to work part-time at a local art shop and gallery, and David happened to be working in the frame shop. Mm-hmm. So that's how we met and became instant friends.
Yep. Yeah, and then over here in this corner, this is a piece he actually did in 1963, and so that's the earliest work we have here in the show. He was still in high school at the time.
Right, and he graduated from Warwick in '66, and that's a fascinating little pencil drawing or kind of combination colored ink and graphite. Looks like 1975.
Mm-hmm. And this show features work of not only the countryside scenes you would see here in Lancaster County, but also a lot of city street depictions.
And as you look at Brumbach's art, you're going to see there's a lot of triangles, pyramids, and kind of graphic shapes that repeat throughout both his realist art and his abstract or non-objective art. Mm-hmm. And here we have a horse from 1974. Mm-hmm. Just a breathtaking drawing on parchment paper. I remember we used to sell big sheets of parchment paper like that at Marion, and if I remember correctly, it was 85 cents for a sheet.
That's a deal.
Of course, that's when we were making about $2 an hour.
Right. Mm. This piece is the Man Barn, 1977. And again, you can see a lot of triangles from the points, rooftop points in the barn.
Brumbach worked with acrylic, but he thinned it to a watercolor consistency. And he got a really just great combination of texture and detail. And you can see he was a master painter pretty much at the beginning of his career all the way through. The guy was just a genius. Early house portrait.
Yes, this is a house portrait. A little bit different stylistically. It almost looks like pointillism. Kind of exploring the use of light and shade. Brumbach said that he painted light and shadows.
Right, right. He was adamant that he didn't really paint objects or buildings. He was more interested in the color, the atmosphere, the filtering of the light, just to create a mood and to capture a moment. He was after that magic moment.
This is a large piece here depicting First Presbyterian Church and kind of a look down the street. It's photorealism. It was from 1979, so late 70s is kind of when he took off with some speed in terms of photorealism depictions of Lancaster City.
And David, at that time, he lived right on the corner of Lime and Orange. So this is a view right out his front door almost, and a scene that he returned to probably hundreds of times over the decades. Wow.
Gorgeous piece of the courthouse. And I like the way he's kind of framed it so that it's not quite centered. It's a little off to the left.
Yeah, it has a nice feeling of atmosphere. And he captured the detail. If you look closely, you can see the top sculpture on the courthouse dome.
And this one, 1976, Tree on Cherry. You know, he also really looked at nature and trees. I love the way he does trees. You know, a lot of times without leaves, just sort of the barren, just looking at the branches and the trunk and how it all kind of weaves together.
Yeah, David worked seamlessly between the realist style, the abstract, the non-objective, the fantasy, the humorous. He was kind of a master of all. And I used to think that when he was sitting or standing working on a realist painting, he was probably thinking about doing something else in his head. He didn't. He liked to just get into the work and just go with it, and he didn't really think when he painted. He just painted.
Right.
More realist work from the 70s.
Yes, yes. King and Lime is here on the top. And then this is Concord and Walnut Street Carriage House. I don't think this carriage house is still standing. This was circa 1970, so it's pretty early, but this is 76. And I believe a local poet actually wrote a piece that talks about this work.
David had a friend, Barbara Buckman Strasko, and Barbara's a local educator and was the poet laureate for Lancaster at one time. She's published many poetry books. If you're familiar with the Poetry Path Project, there is a segment of Penn Square right at the corner where the Grice building is, and there's poetry in the bricks dedicated to David, and it references this exact painting. So we are so happy that the owner of this painting stepped up and let the museum borrow the painting for the show. And it's just a nice combination of talents. Another courthouse?
Another courthouse, a different view here. Now we're just catching the side of it and kind of looking up Duke Street.
Yeah. We used to call that sky color Brumbach blue. Wow.
And so this work, I think this is the first one we have that really features some reflections. He really liked to explore windows and the reflection and the light. This is North Queen Street, the upper level, from 1979.
Yeah, and it's neat to see pedestrians in a Brumbach, because he usually didn't put more than one person into a painting.
And this is a water tower from 1977 over by F&M's campus.
And that, I believe that painting is loaned from the college.
Yes, yeah, that is actually part of F&M's collection now.
And some more realist work from the 70s.
Yes.
Garvin's Alley, actually, Brumbach worked at Garvin's for a short time, circa 1974 and 5, as a window display artist.
And East Main is actually Lidditz, a Lidditz scene.
Yeah, so a salute to his hometown. And this is where the magic all began. This is one of his art boxes. And happy that it still survives to this day. Just a nice touchstone, a nice keepsake. Brings back a lot of memories. Wow. Another, that was a favorite restaurant of the artist's. And the scene still exists today, although I believe the awning's no longer there. Yeah. And another alleyway, North Cherry Street from 1977.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting. I don't have any other examples of his work of where he's kind of done this on the paper to sort of frame it out in an abstract way.
Brumbach would take reference photos, and they were really simple, crude snapshots, and then he would trim them and crop them. So what you're seeing is the actual crop of two photos that he butted together to create that image. So he's not only painting the scene, but he's painting the whole outline of the reference photo. That was just the idea behind that style. But you don't see Brumbachs like that too often.
And then this is actually another piece, Golden Star, from F&M's collection, and you can kind of see reflection work again here in the storefront windows.
Another favorite restaurant. And unfortunately, that scene has been remodeled beyond recognition, but it's near the corner of King and Water. Yeah, so this wraps up the first floor gallery, but there's two more galleries to go.
We also have a permanent collection gallery here at the Demuth Museum. We rotate different works on display, and right now we have floral watercolors and two pieces that are sort of submarine feeling that are from his trip to Bermuda in 1916.
Here we're in the middle gallery at the Demuth Museum, and we're going to look at a few more Brumbachs. And Abby, tell us what we have here.
So this is another Orange Street scene. This is St. James Episcopal Church. In the background, you can see another church kind of towering over. That church no longer is there. That's where the Steeple House apartments are. And immediately above it, this work looks at the architecture and sort of detail of that church that once stood at the corner of Orange and Duke.
Brumbach painted many versions of St. James Church because that's right along his neighborhood on East Orange Street. A view that he looked at virtually every day and walked by on his way to market. And over here, another Hamilton Club, corner of Duke and Orange.
Again, gorgeous architecture and details that you might not necessarily notice when you're walking by, but he's really brought them to life in this work.
And it's nice to see a piece that's in a kind of a private collection that's now on loan for the run of the show. So thanks to the crew at the Hamilton Club for coming through.
We're on the second floor of the Demuth Museum. This is actually Charles Demuth's studio. And around the corner we have a few more pieces for the Brumbach exhibition.
And some early photos. There's a rare photo of David from the early 70s, taken by his friend Catherine Smith. And I think a lot of people have an image of Brumbach as a bearded artist. And it's fun to see him at a younger age smiling and clean shaven. David was actually clean shaven in circa 73, 74, 75. A lower shot from the mid-'80s of David and his beloved cat, Dusty.
And a wonderful oil on canvas work done by artist Jim Riley of David Brumbach. A lot of local artists really admired David and were part of his life.
and did tribute portraits.
And last photo we have is actually from Neil Presley, and it was done in 1990, so towards the end of David's life. And this photo is actually part of the collection at the Lancaster Museum of Art.
We're on the second floor of the Demuth Museum here in the middle room gallery, and this is kind of the highlight room of the Brumbach exhibit featuring his work from 1980 up till 1991. Sadly, David died in February of '92. And Abby, tell us what we have in this beautiful, well-lit room just full of a bevy of Brumbachs.
A lot of Lancaster city scenes with a few works from the countryside. The first piece here on the left is actually late 70s, but it is Bowman's Jewelry Store.
A building that still stands today and looks very much the same as it did back in the artist's day. The mailbox is gone and the tree is huge. And continuing around, on the mantle there's a portrait of Dave from '86 and kind of a collection of keepsake items on the mantle.
And this is a self-portrait actually that he did in 1986.
And I love the little word balloon, "Hey Dave." That was my usual greeting to him. "Hey Dave, how you doing? What's going on?" And interestingly, Charles Demuth also used little word balloons like that in some of his works.
And then above the mantle we have, again, a nice view down a city street from 1983.
Yeah. And another just a sweeping scene from Church Street right at Old Town.
One of the things that's interesting to me is looking at the cars and vehicles, you can kind of see the time period.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Musser Park, that was literally in David's backyard. He was in the 200 block of East Orange Street, and he considered Musser Park to be an extension of his backyard.
And stylistically, this work is a little bit different than his photorealism works. Different colors, a lot of washes, watercolor.
And I love the shadow in the foreground. That's probably the shadow that was cast when David took the reference photo. Wow.
Stunning pieces here. The top work is actually Charles Demuth's birthplace. He was not born in this house, so this is the residence where he was born. And then below it is Central Market. Again, wonderful angle, kind of, second or third floor office that's looking out onto the market rooftop.
And the view of Demuth's birthplace is a view that Brumbach saw literally every day, because that's where his studio was, at the corner of Lime and Orange. And some of these paintings in the show are in the Brumbach Science Press book. Wow, another version of St. James.
Yep. A little different stylistically. This is a little bit lighter in color and softer.
Yeah. And he just has that little pencil suggestion of the demolished church down the street.
Yeah, right here is kind of a shadow.
Yeah. And I love that deckled edge on the watercolor paper. That's something you don't see too often in his realist work. And wow, train station.
Yeah, a beautiful painting of the Lancaster train station, 1983.
Great. Yeah.
Two small works here in the corner, Manor Street and then an untitled scene, but again, it almost like he captures sort of twilight or, maybe even sunrise, just the beautiful colors of the sunset or sunrise in the background over the city street horizon.
Yeah, and these were paintings that he just was driving around town. I love the idea of him driving and shooting photos at the same time, and then he'd take the little photos home and do the photos were the reference, and he did these gorgeous paintings.
In this little alcove, we have several depictions of Orange Street. So here's First Presbyterian. Here's a really interesting night scene, a dark rainy night, and a lot of orange and some blues and purples popping out. And then behind me we have two more orange streets. And then this is a drawing kind of looking down Orange Street too.
Right, and that was right from his studio at 221 East Orange. The studio has a beautiful wraparound porch that still exists today. There was a little side yard, and Brumbach loved working in the garden there. And above the radiator, there's a kind of a
Unusual.
different scene. It almost doesn't look like a Brumbach.
Yeah, this was a house portrait commission. What makes it unusual, instead of being the facade, it's actually the backyard. So you have a little bit different view of their space.
Yeah, and great example of capturing the light and shadow. Very atmospheric.
No Brumbach exhibition would be complete without some depiction of the Star Barn. So these two works are the Star Barn. The lower one is really interesting. It was actually done on a placemat. And this mark right here is ketchup.
Yeah, that's placemats from the Red Rose restaurant. The restaurant still exists today under another name at the corner of Duke and King Street, right in the neighborhood. And it's believed the Star Barn drawing is one of the last drawings he did in the summer of '91. And you see the date. And David and I used to joke that Lancaster deserved a Star Barn over every sofa or every mantle.
We do have a little slideshow here. He was a prolific artist, and we could probably have a show of 500 of his works, not just 50. And so this slideshow features some things that you don't see here.
I remember that in the Demuth auction. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll complete the exhibit back to Musser Park.
Right, Musser Park, and this is just a stunning work with the Lancaster Museum of Art portico kind of center. And the trees in Musser Park are just absolutely gorgeous, and I think he captures them in a beautiful light. And this was 1988.
And the museum may have some reproductions?
We do, yes, of this. Yeah, some prints.
Right. Great. Well, Abby, thank you for the tour. Viewers at home, please come down to the Demuth Museum and check out the David Brumbach Show and support the arts in downtown Lancaster. For LCTV, I'm Bob Leman.
Down here at the Demuth Museum at 120 East King Street in Lancaster, Brumbach's Lancaster, our special exhibition, is on view through September 5th, 2020. You can give us a call at 717-299-9940 or go to our website, demuth.org, for more information.